Hey kids, it's Jurassic James, and I'm Jurassic Face looking at my favorite dinosaur, Brachiosaurus. So as far as lifestyle goes, imagine Brachiosaurus is very similar to a giraffe in that they have, the name Brachiosaurus means arm lizard, because the arms are longer than the legs, giving us a sloping upwards back. That was named, the name was given by Elmer Riggs in 1903 when the holotype specimen of a Brachiosaurus was discovered in Colorado River. The idea is that the animal was unusual compared to other sauropods in that where most sauropods have shorter arms and longer legs, these guys have longer arms and shorter legs. So my analogy in my mind is always like the muscle-bound guy, those action figures, the big arms and tiny little legs. Same thing there. As far as lifestyle goes, I would imagine it's being similar to a giraffe, but there's more to it than that. And of course, in the world of our modern environment too, we have African elephants and Asian elephants. So I mention the sauropods all the time, these long-necked dinosaurs, and people often think of them, as the elephants of their time. Although elephants are far more mentally sophisticated than sauropods, but it's from some of the similar characteristics of being a large animal, how they walk. Those are things we can compare both animals to. So my joke, of course, is that sauropods are really a result of Madagascar. If you remember, the hippo Gloria and then the giraffe Melvin got married, and they have sauropod babies because they're long necks and they have a thick skin. But anyway, so what you're saying basically, I'm going to show you comparison of this later on, but I'm going to start with the main figures at hand. So my first Brachiosaurus toy, as far as I can remember, was this little guy here in Jurassic Park 1, 1993. You can buy it. Back then they had the human characters and a baby dinosaur, and this is a baby Brachiosaurus. This is my very first toy. I got it at the PX at El Paso, and if you open the little wheels there, so well the wheels don't roll. It's kind of like you can push it around because remember it's like a breeding zoo, and you pull a little guy out, and there's a Brachiosaurus there. And so just like today, Argentinosaurus is really popular. So is Dreadnoughtus too. Back in the 80s, 90s, Brachiosaurus was thought to be the biggest dinosaur ever. In fact, when Riggs wrote about Brachiosaurus, he's like, this is the biggest animal ever, based on a portion of the bones. And so one thing to point out out of the gate is that what we now consider the Jurassic Park Brachiosaurus is technically a giraffe titan. So when I was a kid, they would mention Brachiosaurus lives in North America and um, if you have Spain and Portugal together on it's called the Iberian Peninsula, and also Tanzania, Africa. Since then, people look at those skeletons and go, oh, these are different species. So the one from the Iberian Peninsula is now called Titan. The one from Tanzania, Africa is called Titan. So those are animals that are in the Brachiosaurus family, but they're different species, or different genre, actually, and species, technically, too. So one thing to tell them apart in general is that the bump on their head for the Jurassic Park Brachiosaurus is a really huge bump, and the actual Brachiosaurus is a smaller one. The genus Brachiosaurus means arm lizard. The species Anthracothrax it means deep because they have very deep chests. It compared to Giraffe Titan and Brachiosaurus has more of a longer body and a taller tail. So some of these figures here technically should be considered Giraffe Titan, and I'll explain to that too as we go through. But that being said, my next Brachiosaurus model was actually, and again, they're organized from time, from the oldest to the newest, but I'm kind of telling you how I experienced them, I guess. So my next big model was this one here. So basically, it's a store called Randall's. No, it was Randall's. And they had a toy area, that's when I first saw these Imperial figures. And it tells you Brachiosaurus, and it doesn't give you a year. There is no year. So the idea is that this is actually my first big Brachiosaurus. This was a game changer for me in my backyard. Back then as a kid, in Channelview, I had a backyard where I actually made a Jurassic Park, little roads and had the cars and some cars and the dinosaurs. I just left them outside all the time, which is not good for the toy. But I was a kid, I didn't know any better. And so these guys always put the Brachiosauruses near the helipad, so that people would fly in, they drive by them. So anyway, this one again, the arms are equal to size of the legs. So this guy actually from here down reminds me more of a Camarasaurus. Now the tail should be going straight out, not going down, but that's a relic of the time. But Camarasaurus is a relative of Brachiosaurus that has similar arms and leg lengths. Brachiosaurus has to have longer arms. That's what defines the animal, among other things. So one thing to point out too with the hand and feet. This is something we'll see again and again. Is that they're so for us we have our hand, we have our ulnar radius, the carpal, metacarpal, and phalanges. So a lot of what you see is the hands is part here. So they, when you look at the skeleton of a Brachiosaurus or its relatives, you're seeing that. And there's little pebble, large, well not pebble, but rounded nubs. That's the first finger bones that are like really short and flat. So they're walking like this, and that's really cool because we can see the same design for the most part in modern elephants. So elephants walk on their tippy toes. So does Brachiosaurus. The idea is it's called plantigrade versus digigrade. So you and I, being human, are plantigrade. Our toes go out and our heels touch the ground. For a brachiosaurus or an elephant, they actually are digigrade, walking on their digits, their toes themselves, and there's sort of a large pad of skin or flesh there. Elephants today, for example, African elephants, you can sit there and see one walking in front of you, this giant animal. It can take 3 steps into the bush, and all of a sudden it's gone. You can't even hear it. So again, the idea of a brachiosaurus making this loud, thundering noise, the pad may have actually absorbed some of that shock. So with, in general, the Brachiosaurus we had one like thumb claw, basically our first toe claw, and then little nubs right here. On the back foot there have been 3 clawed feet, but there were 5 toes, but there were 3 actually had big claws on them. So this one has 4 and 4, so that's actually incorrect. But and again, there's no big toe claw right there, so that's correct either. My next Brachiosaurus, this is from Dollar General. I remember from Lufkin. I was in Lufkin, Texas, and it's essentially a smaller version of this guy. So it's the same design, same information. But what I like is that both of their the skulls, they have this smaller bump. It's not as protruding like a giraffe titan does, or we see in Jurassic Park. So one thing to point out with this guy too is that again, this is if you know this is closer to a Camarasaurus in appearance. I'm going to go over that in a minute, what Camarasaurus is actually. But the idea is that this guy looks more like that than a Brachiosaurus to me, but it was a earlier attempt. Timeline-wise, you have this guy that's on eBay, and to make sure I'm getting the names and times correct, this is from a company called LARAMI, Larmy. In China, it's a Brachiosaurus figure. There's no year on it, but this is older. This is like the 80s or 70s, I believe. So this guy, again, is at least having the longer arms than legs. The feet are still incorrect. They have 4 toes, 4 fingers. But again, the overall elephantine style, like where the smaller toes on their toes, that's pretty good. The neck goes straight up, and this guy would have more of the Jurassic Titan skull with the protruding here. I will point out that the nostrils, this is a big thing in sauropods, are seen here in the tip of the nose. There was a time where we have our nose hole and our orbit, our eye holes. So Brachiosaurus, the nose hole is above their eyes. So the initial interpretation of the animal was that it was living in swamps, and that it's tall, like 40-foot tall animal. It would stand in very deep water and have its nose right at the water line, so like a crocodile or a phytosaur at least. The nose hole would be above the water. Its eyes would be above the water, can see things and kind of hide. The problem with that, of course, is one, if you look at a sauropod's feet, they are not like big on. I mean, they're not water animals. Elephants enjoy water, but they're living on solid land. We can see from the footprints and things. And so the idea of, and they're also full of like hollow chambers. They have like hollow vertebrae sometimes, and there's air sacs. So it's hard for animals with that much air in them to go in the water, amongst official ideas. But the main thing is that we do know they're like giraffes, are on land most of the time. So that idea is kind of scrapped. But the importance of this idea is that Dr. Lawrence Whitmer, he proposed, and a paper was published or hit the front of the news on August 2021, and he was saying no, the nostrils are actually down here, even though the nose hole is up here. There's muscle attachment showing the skin would cover that, so the nose hole's up here, but they would come down and they would actually still smell up front, because when you see most animals today, the noses are right in the front. They're smelling and sniffing. Think many reptiles, many birds, many mammals. So the amazing thing about that paper is that it came out the month before September 11th, so it was really obviously this great scientific breakthrough. And then of course our news media was taken over by those horrible events. So he actually, I met him before, and he said that if he had published it like a day or a month later, it would have been buried by the political news instead of the actual scientific news. So that's one thing to point out, is that when you see the nostrils, sometimes they're down here, they're up here. Technically it should be down here now. That's the older view, but still it's correct. The next Brachiosaurus, which was my chief of my collection for quite some time, was this guy here. It's the Carnegie. Let's see, it's 1988. So it's 25 meters. So in science we do meters, so I always say feet here because I think most of you are American based on the algorithm, the YouTube reader, but just feet. So the idea is that this guy here, which is technically a Giraffatitan. If you look at the way the nose kind of pops up like that, this is the Brachiosaurus. It's the longer arms, shorter legs. Again, the species name Antithorax is that it had a really deep chest, basically big, deep chest. The feet, let's see, they do hint at the bigger first claw, and then the other ones have little nubbins. That's pretty okay. The back foot has 4 claws, one big one as well. Again, it should be 3 claws and 2 maybe nubs, and so and a shorter tail. So most sauropods have long tails, like the Platypus and Apatosaurus. Brachiosaurus comparatively had shorter tails, shorter and deeper tails. They were taller, basically. So there was a teacher supply store in Channelview where I would go and order models, and I bought 2 of these. So this is like before eBay or even before Amazon, kids. So let's see, this guy. So there's a company called KB Toys. It was inside of most malls, and there's a company called Jasmine, and basically this is a Jasmine Brachiosaurus. So it again is less. They're hollow form figures that are made. They were pretty cheap for a dinosaur toy, and again it kind of hits the main point. It's the little nub right there, the eye. So again, it's not the best model as far. Well, I don't know. Like to me, it hits all the points. It's not more. It's not as scientifically accurate as like that guy, but it's still a pretty good model. And again, the toes are pretty the generic 4 and 4, which I'm seeing that more and more. They're all like that actually, but 2000 and I think 2000 Disney Dinosaur comes out, and they have Baleen the Brachiosaurus. So this is from McDonald's. And what's really one of my favorite scenes in the movie is when, spoiler for a 23-year-old movie, that when Aladar is running from the Velociraptors, and the herd he runs to a sandstorm, the herd overtakes him, and then he's like, the herd's walking by him, he's seeing iguanodonts and other iguanodonts and the Styracosaurus, and then he like looks up and there's like Baleen, and she walks right over him. It was a really cool scene. But anyway, so Baleen, like that, she has the same generic 4 toes, 4 fingers, so it's all Brachiosaurus. But again, longer arms, shorter legs. I like that way the neck kind of goes up. But given that the arms are longer, it kind of thrusts the neck in the air, making it a high browser, we believe. So the idea is that Diplodocus, for example, Stegosaurus, animals in the environment would have eaten often lower plants. Brachiosaurus had what we call niche partitioning, so it would have been eating higher, taller plants like that, right? So next we have Jurassic Park 3 came out. The Brachiosaurus was redone in the movie. They had this one that, in general, the franchise, I wouldn't say it was dying, but it was getting smaller, the toys were getting less, and so the idea that they had this one Brachiosaurus model that was pretty neat, but it was really small. And so one of the big complaints was like, I always wanted like bigger sauropod figures. So here we are with this guy, and again, you would just pull the leg back, or does the leg go forward? Yeah, you can move the leg back, the tail would shake, would roar, and all that. The teeth are not the best. The idea is that, they, unlike the Diplodocus that only had teeth in the very front, Brachiosaurus and Camera, their cousins, had teeth we think going around the jaw. They eat different kind of plants. But again, as far as the toes go, you have 5 in the front and 4 in the back, which is incorrect for the most part. So then there is the Schleit, which is the German company in 2002. And so here, I think they made an adult version of it, a bigger version of this. I never bought it though, but this is a smaller one, which I think was supposed to be a subadult or a juvenile, which is a smaller model. But it did show the larger claw, which is really cool, and the other small nubbins. There were 3 main claws, and the other 2 were smaller on a foot. So they're attempting to show. This is the first, actually, a real show of how the feet may have looked correctly. That big claw right there, and then maybe small nubs here, and then a big 3 on the back foot, and then 2 other nubs there. So that's really correct. All the time this is happening, there are smaller figures. So of course, this is the Brachiosaurus Safari made in China. There's no year. So this is our attempt at making a baby Brachiosaurus, which I do like the idea. I did read about, as far as Brachiosaurus eggs, possibly finding some in a row, as if they were laying them while they were walking. They weren't clustering them. That's something I will look more. I'm going to look more into more detail though. But baby Brachiosaurus, we don't have any fossils of baby Brachiosauruses, but because actually, I can tell you this, Brachiosaurus is very rare in the Morrison Formation in the environment. It's you don't find a lot of them there compared to the Diplodocus or Camarasaurus. But if we did find a baby, I would imagine like this: the shorter little tail, the neck wouldn't be as long. We see in other baby or younger sauropods, the necks are shorter, and they get really, really long. They get older. Likewise, the Safari tubes created this. There was a tube for, if you go to like Hobby Lobby, Michaels, there's little plastic tubes of like knights or dragons or whatever, and there's one for baby dinosaurs. So the idea here is that the shorter neck, the big eyes, tiny nose, those are all baby features that trick larger animals into taking care of them, basically. And then, of course, there are all the tiny little, like, 10 pack, 4 pack, birthday pack dinosaur toys. So you have little Brachiosauruses in there, too, or Giraffoditans, depending on the skull. And, of course, the, quote, elephant in the room is this big guy here. And so, if I remember correctly, it's from Toys R Us. And I was excited about these. Now, normally I don't buy the foamy dinosaur toys because the skin on the foam sometimes do not age very well, and I am collecting for long term. So, for example, there was a Apatosaurus one I bought, and it had a very thin skin over it, and it got really solid and cracking, and I threw it away actually. But this one these have lasted long. I have several of them behind me. And there's many more you can go in stores and see them, but this one has like the very thick rubbery skin. It's full of like cotton, and you can see that when the legs are. One thing to point out this model in particular is that when I was moving, somehow the packaging got heat, and the glue that held the legs together, they fell off. I had to reglue them. But overall, looking at the hand, you have 5 and 5. So the number is correct. I only wish that there was a bigger inner toe like this. That would make really cool. As far as the skull goes, this is, I would still say Giraffatitan, but it's closer to Brachiosaurus. It's not as big and protruding as the other ones are. So it's a really cool model. Again, I like it because it's the size of the animal. This is the biggest Brachiosaurus I could find. It wasn't an inflatable. I went up there to inflate hanging from the ceiling. So if the dollar stores and also at Walmart, you can find this company's called. Okay. It is a made in China Brachiosaurus model. Again, it's one of those things where it's if it's the only way you can get a hold of, grab it. But again, they're bigger and more accurate models. I'm concerned that the legs seem to be longer than the arms, which is again denying it. It's nothing that annoys me more when the features that we define an animal by are negated in the toys. For example, Pteranodon means wing without teeth, the flying one with the crest on its head, and most of my Pteranodon figures have teeth. It's like, that's okay, sure. So anyway, so this one, again, is a nice model overall, but it's not accurate. So it's one of those things where if you like it, you like it. But it does have 5 toes and 5 fingers, although they don't specify the larger thumb claw. So moving over this direction, we're going to the older models, only a few scientific models. The newer stuff tends to be more accurate on average. No promises, of course, because, again, there's an idea that, hey, people are buying these, kids are buying these who want to know paleontology. They should be somewhat more accurate to reality instead of just what the designer feels like. First of these would be the 2008 Safari. So this is one of my favorite Brachiosaurus models because it just kind of gives you the overall animal design, the way the sloping back, the smaller tail, the feet. They are perfect. You have that first toe, and again that big thumb, and then the other one's kind of nubs. And on the end, we don't know if the other ones have it wouldn't be a full claw or something, but we know there was a claw on the big toe or the first toe, but the other ones we're not really sure. So that's really good. They didn't even show the claw there. They just kind of showed the hoof-like structure of the bones. And the feet have 4 claws. Now, the only complaint is that there should be 3 big claws and maybe a 4 small one. There are 5 toes, but the 5th one is like usually small and kind of receded. But this is still the most accurate up until this point. Next, we have the Carnegie 2012 Brachiosaurus. It's 1/50th scale, made in China. And so this guy, again, has even better hands. So the idea of that big claw right there going inwards, these other nubbins without claws. Oh, this is perfect. So there's 3 toes on that one, and then 2 nubbins on the side. So it's showing all 5 toes, but we know that only 3 had claws. So this one is actually the most accurate. Actually, moving forward, I think, too. This one is my most accurate Brachiosaurus to date. Even the skull does not have the large protruding forward nasal passage. So this is, in my opinion, like the #1 example of what a Brachiosaurus model should be. And, the Jurassic James seal of approval. So next we have, I believe it's a Papa or a Shy again. Did I not get? Oh, I get the Papa one, did I? I did. I will get that in a minute. So this is Shy, and it's again, I didn't even. It's not my favorite because they have these really weird scales on the back. Again, we don't know sauropod skin patterns, so but again, it has a smaller nasal passage. That's pretty cool. It's not. I don't hate it. It's that. Oh, very good. One toe, the rest are nubs. The four nubs. Three toes with claws. Two are nubs. So the feet are correct. So you're getting that correction there. So I do admire it like that. But again, the way the scale pattern is very neat and different. It reminds me of that show Dinotopia. I don't know why, that kind of vibe here. Of course, I've already done a video on the baby Brachiosaurus in Jurassic World. They have 4 toes, 5 fingers, and the adults have a different number, which is kind of weird. But again, these little models are neat. This is like a exclusive little, the green version repaint. I forgot to grab something, so luckily it's like right here. Let's see. Oh, there are always like I went to like Burlington Coat Factory, like a store. It's not a thrift store. It sells like Ross or Marshalls, and there's always like dinosaur packs. And this one, I mean, overall, it's a kind of like a redo of this one. So I mean, these aren't terrible. I mean, if you can get it, go ahead and get one, right? What I like about this one is it has the one toe back, foot back like that. This is supposed to be a baby. Research has shown that the really large sauropods, really heavy ones, they wouldn't be able to like gallop. I've seen some toys where some of them that are really bad I don't even buy, but they'll be like running kind of like mid-run 2 feet off the ground. The really large sauropods, we believe, once you're adults, that they could only have like 1 foot off the ground at any given time. They're moving that slow because when you're that big and that much mass, you don't want to fall, right? But my other favorite, not for accuracy, but more for just nostalgia, is this one here. See, Papo Brachiosaurus, and basically it does have the big toe, but the other 3 have claws on them. The 2 have a big claw on the foot, and there's 2 here. It should be 5 on each. But overall, this is like essentially Papo has done this thing where they are essentially making Jurassic Park version or motif dinosaurs. So I'm going to use this one to explain the Morrison real quick. I spent my last summer digging into Morrison once in June with the Indianapolis Children's Museum, and also in July with HMNS and the Black Hill Institute. So late Jurassic Morrison is a really cool time. My favorite formations, and in that formation, roughly to scale, we have Brachiosaurus, we have Apatosaurus, we have the Camarasaurus, as I keep mentioning earlier, and of course the one we have here in Houston are Diplodocus. So these are 3 sauropods. There's actually more than this in the site. Oh, right, let me tell you who they are. So the Apatosaurus is, let's see, doesn't tell you. So this is Safari. They have these larger hollow form models, and the Camarasaurus is a 2019 Safari. I've been in a Camarasaurus video. I see another figure coming out. So I wanted to get that one first. But Camarasaurus is one of the most abundant sauropods in the Morrison. And the Diplodocus is a 2017 Safari. So that's who they are. And so in general, what you're seeing is what's called niche partitioning. I mentioned earlier is that the Diplodocus feeds down. It's stripping leaves like that. It can rear up too and feed. So can Apatosaurus, but they're slightly different. But Apatosaurus is generally more bulky than the Diplodocus. Bear in mind the Diplodocid family, the group, Diplodocus, Apatosaurus, Barosaurus, they're all very lightly built compared to the Macronarians, the Brachiosaurus, the Camarasaurus, the Titanosaurus. And so they're feeding kind of low. If they're stripping leaves down, swallowing whole, the Camarasaurus and the Brachiosaurus are more higher feeders. Of course, Brachiosaurus being the highest. And the joke, of course, I say is I go to the museum garage and I'll put a pair of shoes on the first floor, and I'll go up to like the 3rd floor and look up the thing and look down. They're like, my head's right here, my feet are down there. I'm Brachiosaurus kind of thing. So these guys are in the Morrison as well, living all together, same time, same place. Brachiosaurus being the rarest, I think, of some of those sauropods. We have the Camptosaurus, which is an iguanonaut, little biped that can walk on all 4. Of course, the more really famous friend, Stegosaurus, living there as well. And the 2 predators that are abundant in toy world are the Ceratosaurus, the horn, which I've done 2 videos on, and the Allosaurus you're seeing here. There's one called Trophosaurus, who is bigger, but more rare, and I do see a PNSO model of it, which I'll be getting at some point, and you will discuss that more. But these are animals living together, same time, same place. Now, that being said, obviously the thing I really want to talk about is this one here. I've already done a video where I went over the Jurassic World giant Brachiosaurus model. I had an unboxing. A friend of mine, Lisa, saw it and said, "You were so happy, so I love Brachiosaurus." And so here's one of them here. So it was pretty much this one here that I unboxed. So what I did not realize is that the Jurassic World line were creating all of these sauropods. And so first of all, it's Brachiosaurus, and then Brachiosaurus went off the market for the most part, and now they have Apatosaurus, which I did a video on that one, and it's going off the market, and now we have Dinosaurs, and I heard that when Dinosaurs are off the market, we're going to see Mimichisaurus models, which is both exciting and annoying, because one, I've already done a video on Mimichisaurus, and two, that's just more space in my office here. But Brachiosaurus is back on Amazon. There is essentially a repaint, Amazon exclusive, and I saw it, and here it is, and I'm like, well, I want that. And basically, it's the exact same model I just showed you, but this one has been painted differently, and so that's why it's different. So, taking the official scissors of Jurassic James, I will be unseating these, and we will open up this new variant on the original. Okay. So same as before, it comes in parts, because obviously. So same as before, take the tail, and it plugs in, right? Yeah. So there's a little tab, and it goes down here, it goes down there, so you plug it in like that. The head. The same thing here, you plug it in like that. And basically what you're looking at is the exact same model. The difference is paint job is very different. There is where this one has just a kind of plain gray. There's like a splotching here. This one also has the DNA. So in the Jurassic World line, because nowadays kids don't just play with toys; they have to go into a device. Apparently, they added this DNA code you can scan and have the Brachiosaurus in your phone or device. And so basically, they're the exact same model, the exact same everything, except for the paint and DNA code. But if you missed the first round of Brachiosaurus, I know it came out right around COVID or during COVID. So the idea is that you can now have another chance of getting that at this Amazon exclusive, connect it like that. And again, the head. Oh, I see that. So on the head, you can look at it right there. You can see some splotches of green, like a neon green. Right, we put it right in the camera. He's looking at you. There's splotches of green right there. So again, if you want a giant Brachiosaurus, I say get it, because I feel like it's something that they won't make again probably. And it's the exact same. If you want to see more about this animal in detail, I had the same video before, but I wanted to give a history of Brachiosaurus as well, and how this animal is not the biggest dinosaur anymore, but it's still really famous. People know Brachiosaurus, and Jurassic Park really helped that. With that being said, I'll see you guys next week. Thank you for tuning in, and I will do something different, something not unusual. See you then.